What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the TNT Smoke Factory. Week 5 of college football gave us probably our best week of college football so far, and probably for the entire season. We had a lot of good games, and then of course that thriller in Tuscaloosa at
Very
the end of the
exciting.
day when Alabama took down Georgia. But there's a lot to talk about, so we're going to give you guys our top 5 takeaways from the week, starting with number 5, and that is Colorado is still a threat to the Big 12. I expected Colorado to do pretty good in the beginning of the season, but honestly, not as good as they are doing. They're starting to get a lot of good play out of that offensive line, and we know the skilled players they have. So, with those skill players, as long as you get that play from the line, Colorado could be very dangerous, especially in this Big 12 that isn't shaping out to be too strong. Everybody's starting to beat up on each other. Utah just went down late night to Arizona. My upset alert pick of the week. It
Mm-hmm.
hit. BYU
I called that
struggled.
one too.
That wasn't your upset though. Your
Yeah,
upset didn't hit.
but I called it.
You called it. BYU didn't look too strong against Baylor. They let Baylor sneak back into that game. So Colorado is, quietly starting to become one of the best teams in the Big 12 and could potentially win it, honestly.
Yeah, because when you look at this conference, you gotta understand that we're not talking about a bunch of very, very strong teams. We're talking about teams that are mid-tier, maybe a touch better than mid-tier, but who's going to stand out amongst that crowd? And if Colorado is able to put together a run game like they put together in that UCF game, then they are a very dangerous team.
Yeah.
Their defensive line played a lot better in that game. Their offensive line played a lot better in that game. Now, it's only one game, small sample size, so we don't know. Is it just a drop in the water? Is it just because Dion took his team back to Florida and all the excitement of Dion happened in Florida? I don't know. But what I can tell you is if they are able to make this a trend, then they go from being, mid to lower level of the Big 12 up into the top tier of that conference, and very well could push for a conference championship spot in the CFP. Who would have thought?
Our number 4 takeaway: Notre Dame is within striking distance of getting
Mm,
back into the playoffs. They had a pretty good win against Louisville on
mm-hmm.
Saturday. I predicted that one incorrectly. I thought Louisville would win. They disappointed me. Louisville, I might never pick you guys again. But yeah, they beat Louisville, and they're now ranked 14 in the
Yeah,
nation. The big piece for Notre Dame is that they need USC to keep
need
winning
them.
because as you can see, the SEC is going to get a lot of favoritism this year because it's so strong. It's such a strong conference.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia went from 2 to 5. They're not dropping these SEC teams too far. Even Ole Miss dropped from like 6 to 12, still ahead of Notre Dame. So they need to be able to jump some of those SEC teams that are going to be coming down as they have to play each other. They need to be able to jump them. They need to get a strong win that USC could give them. So Notre Dame is outside looking in right now. Those SEC teams are going to have to come down, and they're going to be sitting there waiting to see if they could get back into the playoffs.
Yes. Now I'm happy to say that I called that Notre Dame game. Expected them to beat Louisville off of the revenge factor. So, Marcus Freeman, he was able to put together big win for them that week. But you are exactly right. The only way they get in is they are USC fans for the rest of the year down to the last week of the season. They are strong USC fans. They need USC to do some things that I'm not 100% sure that USC can do. And that is one, they got to go into Penn State. No, they have Penn State coming to them.
Yeah.
They have to have Penn State come out there, them being able to beat Penn State, but then they got to be able to also beat Nebraska. Nebraska's a questionable ball club. Who's going to show up? If the right Nebraska ball club shows up, now luckily they have both of them out there at the Coliseum, but if the right Nebraska ball club shows up, they could spell trouble for that USC defense and be able to put up the points necessary to win that game.
Yeah, so Notre Dame, you're gonna be like you said, big USC fans for the rest of the season, but you're
Mm-hmm.
definitely within striking
They're
distance
there.
of getting back into the playoffs.
They're there.
Our number 3 takeaway: UNLV and Boise State could end up cannibalizing each other. If you look at it, UNLV and Boise State are probably the two best group of 5 teams right now. James Madison is playing some good ball, but UNLV and Boise State, it's just a different feel around those two teams. Now, Boise State has to go to UNLV, I'm pretty sure, on the 25th of October. Say UNLV beats Boise State the first time around. They'll probably have to see each other again in the Mountain West or Mountain West Championship, and say Boise State wins that time around. They could end up cannibalizing each other to the point where there's a James Madison team undefeated, like, hey, we're still out there.
What about us?
So it's going to be interesting. I think the best case scenario for the Mountain West is for Boise State to probably they need Boise State to beat UNLV both times, or they need one of the teams to win both times, because if you have Boise State already has one loss, Oregon. If they can run the schedule, they'll be in. But say they lose to UNLV, then beat UNLV. They'll be sitting there with 2 losses up against a James Madison that's undefeated. So UNLV and Boise State could very well end up cannibalizing each other.
I look at it like this. I'm looking at the two clubs separate from one another and just what they're doing on the season. UNLV, I had to give them credit. They were able to put together a win this week after their quarterback bailed on them.
A pretty good win, too.
Dominant win. Yeah, they won soundly this week. So, the backup quarterback comes in, shows a lot of spark, and they're able to put together a win. But I question if they're going to be able to hang with the likes of Boise State. Boise State in that running game is set to hit the road.
It doesn't matter who it is. You can't stop them. Oregon tried. They couldn't stop. Nobody can stop Ashton Jeanty right now.
And I think because of that, that's going to be the difference maker that actually makes this a mute conversation, because I think Boise State is actually going to win both of those meetings if it comes down to both those meetings, because you never know. After one loss, could UNLV collapse? Yeah.
To get to our number 2 takeaway, this could go down as one of the greatest Heisman races of all time.
Oh, yeah.
You have so many good players and not a clear favorite right now. Some people would say Travis Hunter, he's having an amazing season. You saw him hit the Heisman pose. Travis Hunter, he'll definitely probably end up in New York. But then you have Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. We were just talking about them. He has like 13 touchdowns through 4 games.
Yeah.
That's unheard of. That's like crazy number. Those are quarterback numbers that he's putting up as a running back. And he's averaging over like 200 yards a game.
That's my key. Not only is he putting up the touchdowns, but this guy is closing in on 1,000 yards, and we're not even at halfway through the season. Now, if he's able to hit 1,000 before game 6, and then he's able to carry that 1,000-yard season and turn it over into a 2,000-yard season, this man becomes the Heisman.
Yeah.
And
especially if he can carry his team to the playoffs.
Yes.
That would be incredible.
Now, but with that being said, you look at Travis Hunter, and this guy is doing something that no other player has done. I was really glad to see that interview with Charles Woodson, because a lot of people are comparing him to Charles Woodson, and I think he's doing it a step better. Why? Because that play count is nothing we've ever seen before. This guy starts on both sides of the ball. You don't just plug him in here and there on the offensive side because he's a DB, or you don't just plug him in on the defensive side because, hey, he can stop it in passing situations. This guy plays both sides of the ball, and he plays both sides of the ball at a very, very high level. All I need to see him do is start returning some kicks, and I say it's a no-brainer. He's the Heisman.
Yeah.
If he gets one punt for a touchdown, lock it down. He's done.
But you can't say that because you've got so many other good players as well. Cam Ward out of Miami, he might have just had his Heisman moment with that clutch play late in the game against Virginia Tech. Not only Cam Ward, you still have Jalen Milroe out there. Jalen Milroe is playing insane. He's playing out his mind. With him being able to pass and run, Alabama has to become the favorite
dangerous
right now.
Team in the NCAA.
Yeah, they have to become the favorite right now to win the championship because of the play of Jalen Milroe.
Yes.
He's playing out his mind. He deserves to be in the conversation. And then 2 freshmen, Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith. I know they're still young, but I wouldn't be surprised if you start hearing their names start, going around for this Heisman race. Ryan Williams just had his moment against Georgia with that late game touchdown, incredible touchdown.
Yes.
And then Jeremiah Smith just continues to make out of this world plays, not back to back, but 2 one-handed catches on one drive. One of them being for a touchdown. Jeremiah Smith's playing out of his mind as a freshman. Both of them are. But yeah, this Heisman race, it could go down as one of the greatest of all time.
Right now, I'm enjoying this 2-man race for the Heisman, not dealing with quarterbacks. Will it come down to the quarterbacks at some point?
Probably.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Because Travis Hunter, it comes down to if his team can continue winning.
Yes.
If
I
Colorado,
don't know. For Jeanty,
I'd say for both, honestly, because if Colorado starts losing, then he'll kind of get that Caleb Williams treatment from last year. Caleb Williams was in the talks, but USC was just dog awful. And then with Jeanty, if he could put his team on the back, I think that secures his spot at least in New York. But if they start to lose and start to settle down, even with him putting up big numbers, I don't think he'll be talked about as much.
Here's the difference with Travis Hunter for me. He's doing what no other person has ever done.
Yeah.
And I think that
at
alone.
At this rate. There have been players that played back both sides and started. I'm saying at this rate, how well he's doing it, how many snaps he's getting.
Name another player that has done what Travis Hunter is doing now.
In terms of what? Playing both sides of the ball?
Playing both sides of the ball, starting on both sides of the ball, excelling on both sides of the ball.
I can't remember if started, if Jabril Peppers, but I mean, Jabril Peppers was putting up numbers on both sides. Chris Gamble was putting up numbers on both sides.
Well, okay. Chris Gamble, yeah, he was an impact player on both sides, but not to this degree.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not to this
degree.
level.
So again, Travis Hunter is doing what nobody else has ever done. Whether you want to say based on the level or whatever, he's doing what nobody else has ever done.
Yeah, Travis Hunter is definitely there.
He just has to keep excelling on both sides of the ball. Whether they win, whether they lose, excel on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. And then to get to our number one takeaway, the SEC still runs through Tuscaloosa. Even without Coach Saban,
man,
Alabama proved that they're still the top dog of the SEC. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was a moment in time in that game that Georgia just looked specifically Carson Beck. I'll let you talk about this because you brought it up to me, so I'll let you take this one over.
It was it's still in the second quarter.
It was the second quarter.
Second quarter. He threw another critical pick, another critical interception. And all you had to do was look in his eyes. You looked in his eyes and all fight was gone. I think Kirby Smart must have did a great job with him during the halftime because initially at that point, that guy was outside the stadium in his car already headed back to Athens.
Yeah.
He was checked out of that game. And so for them to be able to put it back together, and really you can't even say after half, they didn't really put it back together until mid-third quarter.
Yeah.
And that's when he finally was able to hit somebody in the end zone, it seemed like it clicked back on for him.
Yeah.
And so it was good to see that. It was good to see Georgia fight. I picked Georgia to win that game. Why? Because I had no idea that I was going to see that Carson Beck that we saw for 2.5 quarters.
Yeah. It was just the look in Alabama's eyes. Like, I felt it when they were coming out of the tunnel.
There was a readiness.
Right before the game started. I was just like, this is crazy. The atmosphere is insane.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it to be that crazy. Alabama came out and just started running through them. Now, I must say, if they played again, Georgia could win because I don't know if Alabama could build that level of, hype. That level of hype again because you could see it. They were ready to play.
Yeah, you got to give it to them. Roll Tide crowd, you guys, for the first half, you guys were definitely a huge factor in what we saw.
Yeah.
That 28-point spread, huge factor to that crowd.
Yeah. So if they played again, I don't know. But for now, we still know that the SEC has to run through Alabama. Alabama's an extremely talented team. They can run the ball, pass the ball. Their defense is okay, which could pose some challenges against teams like Tennessee, who has a strong offense, even maybe Missouri, even though they haven't been showing it lately.
What I really enjoyed about that game is it really gave you a great look of how gladiators battle.
Yeah.
Because Georgia was dead.
Yeah,
they had really every reason to lay down. Who I want to give credit to on Georgia is their defense. Their defense had every reason to lay down in that second half and just say, we're done. Hey, we're down by 20, 28 points. What does it matter? Their defense rose to the occasion and shut down that Alabama offense in the second half, for most of the second half. They went from scoring 28 in the first half. Would they end up getting another 13, I think, to win the game?
Like that. It wasn't much.
Yeah. So hats off to Georgia's defense in that second half for what they did.
But like we said earlier this season when we said Ohio State and Oregon would see each other multiple times, I think this Alabama-Georgia, they could end up seeing each other multiple times. It just feels like destiny for them to see each other on a neutral site.
Could. Well, if they see each other again, it's going to be a quasi-neutral site. They'll have to see each other in the SEC championship game.
Or which in the playoffs. Say Georgia doesn't make the SEC championship.
Okay. It's going to be tough. If Georgia doesn't make the SEC championship, that means they're sitting there with at least 2 losses.
Which gives them probably an 8-9 seed. The 8-9 game plays the number 1 seed. If Bama gets the number 1 seed, they'll see each other in the second round.
That would be awesome to put that back on. No, but okay, that's second round. Second round. All right. So I like that. And we're still learning this whole new format, so it's not stuck in the brain yet. I like that. But my worry for Georgia is that Georgia still has a strong uphill battle.
And they needed this win, in my opinion. They needed to beat this Alabama team just because of the schedule they have ahead of them.
You got to go at Texas.
Yeah, you still have to go to Texas. You still have to go to Ole Miss. You still have to play Tennessee.
Yeah.
You guys are not in the clear at all to make this play.
You got 3 very, very stiff, tough games that you're going to have, before the end of the season. And, who knows? You might see Georgia fall all the way to like 15 if they don't get it together and win these tougher games.
But I think Kirby Smart will have his team ready. But we'll see. But that's our top 5 takeaways from week 5 of college football. It was a great week. Week 6 is more of like the quiet before the storm. You don't hear about a lot of huge games in this upcoming week. But week 7 and week 8, crazy games. Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, Tennessee. It's going to be 2 great weeks of college football come week 7 and week 8.
Strap in, folks. The season's not over.
But like I said, that's our top 5 takeaways. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys on the